Hi students, welcome to the next session. Previously, we have discussed a few topics in the first unit, and in this session, we will forward with the next topic, that is psychology as a natural science. So, psychology as a natural science. As I said earlier, I am making this with the reference of the textbook because when you study the textbook, you will be able to understand each line by line and it will be easy to remember. Okay, so that is the reason I'm using the material which is prescribed by the board and we will see each line by line. Okay, so psychology as a natural science. This is the topic. So it is being mentioned earlier that psychology has its roots in philosophy. As we said in the earlier sessions also, psychology is as old as human being. Okay, and the knowledge associated with psychology is also as old as human being. But how? It draws its information from philosophy. But the modern evolution of human beings in the past 100 years or earlier in the 19th century, 18th century and 19th century given rise to the much more contributions towards psychology subject. That's the reason. So we are getting, we can connect much of this knowledge to philosophy. And even what is philosophy? The philosophy is also understanding the facts and unanswered questions. It gives a new approach to unanswered questions like hypothetical situations. Philosophy can deal with such situations. Even psychology, as it is the knowledge related to human being, there will be a lot of things which are unanswered. So in such a way, it will psychology draws its roots from philosophy. However, modern psychology had developed because of the application of scientific method to study psychological phenomena. As in the earlier session, we already said it deals with both biological and social processes, and it it is a discipline which has a set of rules and regulations and tries to examine, tries to replicate, which is verifiable, reliable, in such a way it itself a scientific method. So that is the reason it is called psychology as a natural science, and it has the other phase as a social science. And we are seeing that science places a great deal of emphasis on objectivity, which can be obtained if there is consensus on the definition of a concept and how it can be. Let's see it now and continue with the next. Science places a great deal on emphasis on objectivity. Objectivity means it is like it should be applicable to others also. When you, if there is a, like if you can take an example of Pythagoras theorem, the result can be applied to whatever the triangle is available in that one, in that conditions. In the conditions, if you put a, b, c values, you can get the result, right? In such a way it should be objectifiable, it should be replicable, and the concept which it deals should also understood by the other one, which is measured. It can be measured, objectifiable, and it is measurable. Okay, psychology was influenced by Descartes, Rene Descartes, who was also one of the greatest influences earlier in psychology, and later on by the developments in physics has grown by following what is called a hypothetical-deductive model. Hypothetical-deductive model, it is like deducing the facts. Deducing the facts. Like you have, as we said in the example, we will stick to one example. There may be a lot. Pythagoras theorem. What are all available in there? There are three sides. In these three sides, you are calculating distance. You are making the formula into bits and pieces. Hypothetical deductive model is you take a hypothesis and you start digging down into that, deducing that hypothesis to the roots so that you can understand the facts. The model suggests scientific advancement can take place if you have a theory to explain a phenomenon. Even that hypothetical deductive model suggests scientific advancement. It is the most modern method to explain such a phenomenon, which is a natural phenomenon or the behavioral phenomenon. For example, physicists have what is called a Big Bang theory to explain how the universe came to be formed. So, having a theory or a model, it should also explain some facts. For example, they are saying a Big Bang theory, how this planet has evolved, this evolution has evolved, human being has evolved, how this universe has evolved. All these questions will be dealt in this theory. So they took a assumption, hypothesis, and framed this one. And theory is not else but a set of statements about how a certain complex phenomenon can be explained with help of propositions which are interrelated. As I said, in the Big Bang theory, there are a lot of concepts involved in that one. Human evolution, universal evolution, solar system formation, and how the life has formed. There are set of prepositions. That's what here. A theory is very simple if the statements are very clear. If it is not, it will be really difficult, and even that particular research or the theory will be also be failed. Based on a theory, scientists deduce or propose a hypothesis. If there is a theory, even to examine theory and to objectify that theory, they deduce these facts and propose a hypothesis. There is also inductive model and deductive models. There are two models. In that, one is deductive model, which they form hypothesis based on a theory, and on the theory we have some facts, that is propositions. Based on that, they propose some hypothesis that offers tentative explanation of phenomenon, how a certain phenomenon takes place. As we said, how the life formed, how the solar system formed, how the universe has formed. The hypothesis then is tested and proved to true or false based on empirical data that has got gathered. If we can take, for example, let us take a new example. Boys are smarter than girls. Either it girls are smarter than boys. You want to put it as a theory. And how can you measure that? Sorry, based on some like a test, intelligence test, like some reasoning, logical test. By administrating all these things, you can get some data. You put an exam, they perform in some questions, and then you get the data. By analyzing the data, taking the gender into the factor, male and female, and then some age factors, a particular standard, and then based on all facts, you can get some data that if the boys has good result, you can say it as boys. If the girls has the good result, if there is some impact, you call these as variables. We will be discussing in the next chapter. That is how the process is. The theory is revised if data gathered point in a different direction than the one suggested the hypothesis. If, as said, the theory will conclude something, if you try to objectify that theory, then trying some statements, you will understand whether the theory is proved or not. If it is not proved, then you can revise the data and the theory also. That is where the science, the factor science comes into picture. Science, it is reliable, it is changeable with the facts. It should be changeable. Whenever the facts changes, it should adjust according to the facts. Okay, using the above approach, psychologists have developed theories, learning, memory, attention, perception, motivation, and emotion, etc. In this way approach, scientific approach, scientists, psychologists have developed theories, learning theory, memory theory, attention theory. So they developed theory, and then you can use that theory to observe particular data or conditions. Okay, and have made significant process. Yes, the theories are very reliable and a significant progress is observed. Okay, till date, most of the research in psychology follows this approach. Till date, hypothetical-deductive model, particular model approach is followed in research, particularly in psychology. Apart from this, psychologists have also been considerably influenced by the evolutionary approach, which is dominant in biological sciences. There is also evolutionary, there is Darwin's theory of evolution, how life has developed, what are the stages involved in its development. Particularly, when you come to understanding biological way, they followed evolutionary approach. That's what here it is saying, which is dominant in biological sciences. Evolutionary approach, which is followed by, even as we are saying, as a natural science psychologist, deal with biological theories also. This approach has also been used to explain diverse kinds of psychological phenomena such as attachment and aggression, to mention just a few. And if you can see, biological, you can call as biological relations. The approach has also been used to explain diverse kinds of psychological phenomena such as attachment and aggression. How a person is very, like you can say, relationships between the human beings, and aggression, which is emotion. These things are biological processes, right? So these are the few things related to like study of psychology connected to biological ways, and thus using the hypothetical deductive model, it can be understood. So moving to the next topic, psychology as a social science. Psychology as a social science, we mentioned above, psychology is recognized more as a social science because it studies the behavior of human beings in the socio-cultural context. As in the earlier minutes which we discussed, as a natural science, there is also second phase is social science. We mentioned that psychology can be studied in two different phases, that is biological and social phase. Particularly social, it will be the human beings will be connected in the social cultural context, like the behavior, external behavior, how he reacts and responds for the environment. Humans are not only influenced by their socio-cultural context, they are also create them. Yes, new culture has also come up. Previously, if we can take Eastern culture, particularly in South Asian or Asian countries, particularly, they are adopting the Western methods. Even psychology, as a new age science, it adopts Western methods. Okay, so then psychology as a social science discipline focuses on humans as social beings, like they depend on each other, they behave collectively, they live in social conditions. Okay, consider the following story of Ranjita and Shaba. Ranjita and Shabam, let us see how they are dependent on each other, how the relationships work, and why psychology as a social science. Ranjita and Shabnam were the same class. Let us see, they are studying some sixth grade. Although they were in the same class, they were just acquainted with each other and their lives were quite different. Yes, right. There are many social conditions, right? Even if you can see, North Indian conditions are different from South Indian conditions, and there will be some economical imbalances between like few families, like we can say poor, middle class, rich. These are the conditions, and even the employment opportunities also vary. There will be some government and non-government, private and public. There are some differences. So, like these are the options available. These are the categories available for like in such a way. Ranjita came from a different background. Shabnam came from a different background. But even particular country like India, there are many kinds. Even it is a language. There is a culture, different cultures. Like even you can say the conditions or the environmental conditions are different, the geographic conditions are different. But how, as a total whole country, how it deals? Okay, although they were in the same class, they were just acquainted with each other, their lives were quite different. Yes, if you can see, there is some difference in the name also. In the name Ranjita, it relates to some category. Shabnam, it relates to some category, right? Okay, Ranjita came from a uh, farmer's family. Her grandparents and elder brother worked on the farm. So Ranjita, her socio-economic status is from farmer's background. So her grandparents, parents, and elder brother and her whole family is involved into farming. They live together in their house, in their village. All the family, it is like a joint family. They are living in the same house. They live together. Ranjita was good athlete. She is physically strong and mentally strong and was best long distance runner in the school. Ranjita is very interested in sports activities. She loved meeting people and making friends. And here it is also showing that she is an extrovert. She is very communicative. Ranjita is being from a family and a joint family. She has a very good connections with other peoples, like different age groups of people. Then she also participates and interests in the sports activities, and she's very communicative and connective to other students. Unlike her, Shabnam lived with her mother in the same village. Ranjita and Shabnam were in the same village, but Shabnam was different. Shabnam's father worked in an office in a town nearby and came home during holidays, like weekdays like Sunday or a public holiday. Shabnam's father, works in the nearby town. Her family conditions are different. Like her father lives away, and Shabnam was a good artist and loved staying home and taking care of her younger brother. When when compared to Ranjita, Ranjita's brother is doing farming with her grandparents. Here, Shabnam's brother, she is taking care of the brother. She is at home. She likes to live at home, and her father is not living at the home. And she was shy and avoided meeting people, as her family is very very few, like maybe three people are living in her house. They are not much communicative. Like even last year there was a heavy rain and the river nearby flowed into the village. Last year there was a heavy rain, like in that year, particularly in the monsoon, there was a heavy rain. Many houses in the low lying areas were flooded. Like particularly generally, if you can see villages, there may not be the largest houses and good drainage system. The rainy season, can take up this, like you can see, low-lying areas can be flooded, right? And I think the background has changed, but let's continue. The villagers got together and organized help and gave shelter to people in distress. Those houses which are flooded, the villagers helped each other. Shabnam's house was also flooded. She came to live with Ranjita's house as she is a friend and her mother and brother. As these were the three people, and Ranjita is living with many, her grandfather, brothers, and she may have invited Shabnams to uh, acquaint in her house, and Ranjita was happy helping the family and making them feel comfortable in the house. As Ranjita is very communicative and extrovert, and even she's very good at sports. Here, Ranjita is really good, like inviting her, making them comfortable. When the flood water receded, Ranjita's mother and grandmother Shabnam's helped Shabnam's mother to set up their house. Like as it is flooded, the Ranjita's family also helped Shabnam's family to reconstruct their house. The two families became very close. Ranjita's and Shabnam also became very good friends. See, the conditions, particularly the flood condition, the monsoon conditions, also gave a chance for the villagers to live, to help each other, and even these two classmates to become more close friends. Right? That's how the social conditions uh, makes a good factor. In this case, Ranjita, Shabnam, both are very different persons. As I said, Ranjita's background is different, Shabnam's background is different. Ranjita from a family background, Shabnam is from a middle class family where the father works out of the town, in town, and stays away from the family. They grew up in a complex social cultural conditions. You can see the regularity in the relationship of their nature and experience and mental process with their social and physical environment. If you can see, Ranjita has dealt, as I said, as a sports person, she has a lot of mental strength. She know how to deal with the environmental condition. When there is a tough situation, she can be able to help with her friend and even their family. As working in the farm, they know how the like nature uh, works. They know how to deal with the water. All these conditions help them relate each other and connect with each other, but also at the same time there are variations in their behavior and experiences which will be difficult to predict using the known psychological principles. What has motivated the family, the villagers to help each other? What has motivated the mother and grandmother to help Shabnam's mother to set up their house? What has motivated Ranjita to call Shabnam to their house? What motive is behind? So all these conditions, it can be different, right? So these behaviors and experiences cannot be explained with the so far known psychological principles, but still they have to be understood. One can understood why and how individuals in communities become quite helpful and self-sacrificing in crisis. That's what, as I said, what has motivated. As with the case with people, a village, but even the case, not every villager was equally helpful, and under similar circumstances, not every community is forthcoming. Yes, there may be conditions like in if it is a flooded in town, the people may not be such cooperative, like they may act individually. There can be chances. In fact, sometimes the opposite is true. People become antisocial under similar circumstances, indulging in looting and exploitation when some crisis occurs. Like if you can see, when the village is flooded and there is nothing to eat, people will become so we can say biologically they'll starve and start agony between each other, against each other. They may fight each other for the very available food. And even if you can see the flooded states like now Bihar and Assam, it will be really difficult to make the food reach to the people. So it is such a situation. When the food is available, the people will come push each other, and that is such a pathetic condition is. This shows psychology deals with human behavior and experience in the context of society and culture. How what is the reason for the behavior? This psychology is a social science with focus on individuals and communities in relationship to the socio-cultural physical environment. So here, what as we discussed in the previous minutes, like psychology as a natural science, what is the motive behind? What are the biological conditions? Here, psychologists try to understand the external behavior and the conditions, social conditions, what turned uh, to for such a behavior or the conditions effective the people to behave in such a way. Okay, that ends. We discussed the psychology as a natural science, and we discussed so far these five topics like introduction, psychology, natural science, and social science. In the next chapter, we will be seeing the next topic: understanding minds, behavior, popular notions, and evolution of psychology. And that's all for today. Thank you so much. And yes, I end this.